Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Mavri here with another episode of It Invaded. So, continuing my catch-up to the current episode, wish me luck. So yeah, where did we left off? Where did we leave off last episode? We saw that Hondomachi managed to get herself into a sticky situation again. Now, whether or not she's actually going to be kidnapped, we don't really know, but at the very least, I will say, poor girl, for her, how she always ends up in these kinds of, situations, right? However, I did say before that because she had that, drill, put through her brain or whatnot, basically a lobotomy, well, there is definitely going to be some more stuff in regards to her and in regards to the perforator, right? Beyond that, I think the other thing that I am really keen on knowing more about would be Nahisago's story. We can definitely see that he is mentally not in a very good place. How is he going to be saved? So on and so forth. Well, I am all about that, right? And of course, always about what new criminals they are going to try to get, what kind of imagery and references they are going to get clues from. So anyways, let's get into the episode. Okay, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Come on. Oh, creepy. Come on, at this point you should... I would think you would be like, stop! Stop that man! Yeah. He's an important witness. Really? Alright. Well, I guess it's nice to be handsome, right? No, but seriously, I do think that the perforator is, beyond actually, instead of actually killing them, more like performing a lobotomy on them, right? Through some kind of misguided thinking that that's going to free them from their thoughts or something like that. And indeed, the Perforator turned out to be a much bigger character than even I initially anticipated. Like, I thought that there was definitely going to be something else, like Hondomachi being a ticking time bomb or something. But, well, they actually recruited him to be one of the divers here, so... I guess... more. I would have thought that he would be put on trial, and... yeah. Like, who says you need to find all the Huh. Is it a case where they still need to find the last victim before they can actually put him on trial? I don't know. It is the young. "23." Oh wait, she was kissed? She's the gravedigger? Because he's the gravedigger? There we go. So he's in some way not entirely himself. Because his brain is not quite right. Like, that is actually really sick. It is indeed a big leap of logic, but I guess you can't really fault that. Ooh. And just like that, she confirms her hypothesis. It doesn't necessarily mean he's the gravedigger, but it does mean he's there with a nefarious purpose. Nefarious purpose. Oh, so his unconscious has been changed. Well, at least they can make an id will now. Fallen. They got the cognition particles, they can make a will. Ooh, Sky Island now. Okay. How are you gonna land without killing yourself? Okay. I guess he takes no fall damage. And of course, it's Kylie. Really? Do tell. So she was killed first, and then this house floated up. How do you... What? What the hell? All girls. If that was the case, then I gotta say the copycat was pretty correct in using a barrel. Oh. Okay. That was literally a trickery of perspective. You would think you don't need like lots of deductive reasoning to see that. Never mind. Oh. I like how, I just noticed, those are actually command lines flowing out from there. So even though they have a graphical user interface, they're actually showing the running code in the background. That's pretty awesome. That's a level of detail that not a lot of shows have. Here's the fermentation factory. Damn. Ooh. Holy shit. Oh, it's John Walker. Uh. Wow, nice throw. Wait, how did he get... What? How did he get there that quick? I mean, if they are dead, then there should be... Oh. You know, if they are smart, they would, like, booby trap them. No, that's soy sauce, gasoline. Yep, booby trap. Well, I was actually expecting this from the very first episode. Something like that, I mean, the booby trap. What's with this girl? Something feels fishy to me.
でも和人さんが誰とも付き合ってないって情報は仕入れてたんですね。そんなの相手に興味がないとしないことですよね。ああ、さすが警察の人、鋭い。で、どうなんです実のところ。本当に付き合ったりとかはなかったんですよ。でも、本堂町さんもわかりますよね。相手の子が自分のこと好きなのかもな、みたいなの。ああ、私、ちょっと勘が鈍くて。あなたほど可愛い子で、ああいうの気づかない子、いないと思いますけど。いや、本当にそんな可愛いとかなかったです。今よりはだいぶマシだったかもですが。女の子の可愛さって、結局のところ見た目じゃないから。あなたは今も可愛いですよ。それありがたいお言葉ですけど、女性の言う女の子の可愛いって男性のとはずれてますよね。でも本当に可愛い。話を戻しますけど、失礼なこと聞きますが、稲見さん、されてますか？
Okay, this girl is definitely some bad news.
彼氏さんとかはいらっしゃるんですか？私に興味があるの？ああ、違います違います。そういう意味じゃなくて。
I wonder what's the point. No knives?
興味じゃないですよね。冗談です、もちろん。彼氏ね、いません。いらっしゃったことあります？わ、すごいところまで突っ込んでこられるんですね。そういう興味を。
What's with this back and forth between these two?
捜査に関係あるの？どうでしょう。彼氏ね。もう27だし、いたことはいたけど。
おい、緊急事態だ。戻るぞ。
もう少しだけ。
何？
いいんですか？ねえ、彼氏はいたけど、本当に好きな人ではなかった。鋭い。そういう風に言えるかもしれませんね。彼氏のこと好きになれなかったの。結局のところ、和田遥のことが好きだったとかじゃないですか？違う違う。あれ、どうでしょう。
本堂町、急げ。
わかりました。じゃあ最後に。また何か傷から血でも出てますか？いえ。あ、ごめんなさいね。ジロジロ見ちゃって。いいえ。はい？ひょっとして、というか、やはり、人の怪我とか死ぬとこ見るの、お好きなんですね。
Eh?
びっくりついでに教えてあげます。私、和田遥とキスしちゃったんです。してないでしょ？だってプラトニックでネチョネチョするだけ。
She, like, literally taunting her?
何？まさかのまさか。殺意と恋愛感情の入れ替わりが矛盾しなかったとはね。動くな！両手を上げて、ソファーからゆっくり立って、こっちに出て床に膝をつきなさい。
Yeah, it was the knife.
どうなってる？その銃どうした？
松岡さんに習ったんです。で、この人、墓掘りです。
何？墓掘りはカズタだろ。
和田が人を殺してるのは、この人のためですよ。
Oh.
このサディストへのプレゼントなんです。
Oh, wait. It's outside.
稲見直し、和田遥はどこ？
Damn. Okay, okay. I'm surprised that Hondomachi was able to figure all this out. Let me rewatch it a little bit. I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, this episode did not actually go how I expected, so Hondomachi did not turn out to be in this sort of sticky situation where she got kidnapped or in a compromising situation again. She just, got kissed, and in fact was the MVP for this episode, right? Although I do think there are some stuff that I'm kind of iffy about. But let's go for it one by one, right? So let's talk about Kazuto first. I didn't really like the way that this episode was set up with Kazuto being at the scene of the crime. Honestly, I feel like he shouldn't be there. It's a common precedent for and a common behavior for criminals to actually go back to the scene of the crime. I think I've read some studies or whatnot that shows this is something that happens often, or it could just be a sort of myth, maybe. I mean, I haven't exactly gone through like medical or psychological journals or whatnot, but I do recall that this seems to be a pattern for criminals. That they will return to the scene of the crime to see the aftermath of the things that they did, so on and so forth, right? But even in this case, it wasn't a case where Kazuta was going back to the scene of a crime which he committed, right? It was literally the crime scene of a copycat. So that was just stupid, right? If he was only there to observe, I feel like, even sending Inami there would have been much more logical than him being there, especially considering that he is sort of a MIA person. MIA. Actually, should we say call them MIA? Yeah, I guess we can still call him a missing person, right? He's still a missing person. So with the police authorities there, without even having like a sunglass or whatnot, he's just begging to be identified and eventually brought in for questioning, right? Because he is wanted. Even if he didn't do anything wrong, he's still someone like an important witness to the perforator case. So that was really stupid of them, and I don't particularly like setups where people need to purposely act dumb. Of course, you could also argue that because he already has a hole in the head, he's not thinking quite straight, and so on and so forth. But again, I'm just saying that this is fictional anyway, so I don't particularly like the way it's set up, where it's really more dumb luck that they managed to catch him, right? Now, of course, maybe there is going to be some more explanation in the next episode, in which case I will then rest my case. And so we get this entire thing about the love and hate, love and kill being switched, the switches being flipped or something. So yeah, I guess that's plausible, but I think more to the point, it begs the question: has there been any effects on Hondomachi? Right? I've been saying this since I believe episode 1. With a hole in her head, I don't believe that Hondomachi emerged out of that completely unscathed. In fact, I would say that she has been affected somewhat. It's just that it's not entirely apparent how she has been affected yet. And I think this is what her partner, or I guess her superior, Detective Matsuoka, was trying to say to her while she was doing all the deducting and reasoning, right? I think he also feels that she is a little bit different from the Hondomachi of old. The actual well scene, right? I mean, it's kind of whatever. I feel like the well scenes fluctuate between being something that makes sense or being sort of like a platformer game, or in this case, it's somewhat like a hidden object game, right? Where you just literally, go through the entire map or go for an entire scene and find if there's something hidden in some inconspicuous area or an inconspicuous object, right? So it's not, I don't think it has a very set formula. It's just there to be cool, and so present us with some interesting twists and whatnot. So I think in the future I'm not going to put too much emphasis on analyzing the situation from there. And so far I don't particularly see the well, not that I was gonna say, I don't particularly see any real world references to it. For instance, in the last one with the copycat, I don't see why the copycat needed to have fire burning. Well, actually, I guess he did burn down his house, right? That's something that he did. And in this one, with it being in the air and whatnot, I guess perhaps it symbolizes him. It symbolizes Kazuta having this hole in his head, so wind is blowing through, right? So I guess similar to what the perforator was saying, you need to feel this cool breeze or something like that. Okay. If that was the case, then I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is more, instead of actually focusing on trying to figure out the actual mystery as Sakaido is trying to figure out, I think for us viewers it's more important to see like how the entire scene is set up and the different references that's going on just from the scene itself, right? Although even that, I don't think it's entirely true, because if we think back to the first episode with the Perforator, in the end, with the surroundings being a jumbled, I guess Sakaido did say that his mind being a jumbled mess was representation of the sort of fractured mind that the criminal had. Although it hasn't been proven to be true or not, right? The Perforator, even though he might be a little wonky in the head, he seems to be completely, I guess, mostly sane. Let's put it that way, right? But anyways, let's go on through that. I don't want to spend too much time on that. The main thing and the main iffy part that I was talking about at the very beginning was actually in regards to the very end, where Hondomachi was questioning Inami, right? And I get what that scene was trying to do. It's basically an interrogation scene, right? You're interrogating suspects there, you're trying to ask questions and then find contradictions within their statements to have an aha moment to say, okay, this you're not telling the truth, there's something fishy here, and so we need to take you in for further questioning, so on and so forth, and that would be the big break in the case, right? A lot of mystery works, detective works, or whether it be game or film or books or whatnot, use this kind of tactic to solve the case. Now, the thing here is, I'm not entirely on board with Hondomachi's leaps of logic, right? So there are a few things that that stood out here. The first one would be questioning Inami on the romantic interest part, right? And so one of the contradictions that Hondomachi was holding on was, hey, you're saying that you don't have a romantic interest in Kazuto, but you actually keep tabs on whether or not he has a girlfriend, whether or not he has anybody he's interested in, or is there other people interested in him, so on and so forth, right? That's something that, to Hondomachi, she pointed this out as a contradiction, and so she went down further in the line of questioning. With that being said, some people are just naturally gossipy. I know plenty of people who, even though they might not particularly have a romantic interest in a certain person or whatnot within an organization, especially within a classroom, right? They are from the same middle school and potentially the same class. There are naturally going to be people who are the gossipy sort of types who just go around saying, hey, who likes who is interested in what, that kind of thing. So I feel like it's sort of a leap of logic to say that just because this girl mentioned that she doesn't think there's anybody interested in Kazuto, that would mean that she herself has this romantic interest, right? That's, I don't know, I wouldn't have made that kind of connection. And for Inami to actually relent on this position just through simple further questioning by Hondomachi, that also to me that's pretty stupid of her. Let's just say. The other hint would be the sort of like the scene where Inami was going back and forth with Hondomachi saying, you're really cute, so on and so forth. Now, I get it. The scene is actually really creepy, and lots of warning signs would be put off, right? Lots of warning signals. My warning signal was put off, I guess, a little bit earlier, but that one sort of solidified it. Now, with that being said, I have to say this is sort of getting cues from the anime and not from the action itself, right? There's nothing inherently wrong with that conversation. Is just the way that the anime was presented to us. It was creepy, so I think you can say that it's sort of metagaming it in a sense, because we are anime viewers, we know what to expect. We see that the director has chosen to focus on that scene a little bit too long and whatnot, and so that's why we know there's something wrong there, right? But I'm saying that just judging from the conversation and whatnot, there's nothing particularly making it stand out to increase her suspicion, right? And then the last one, and sort of the nail in the coffin, in a sense, for Hondomachi, would be that Kazuto is showing a big interest in her wound. She's staring at it. But then again, I feel like it's a leap of logic to assume that she enjoys wounds and enjoys watching people die. She's a sadist. lots of people would be curious about a girl running around with a hole in her head, right? Like, I would probably be very curious as well, and if it wasn't sort of socially unacceptable to stare, I think I would also be very curious as to, what's in there or not. Even, you could even call it a morbid curiosity in a sense for, if you do translate to a real life situation and you think it might be kind of disgusting or gross, but still, people are naturally curious. People are curious about more gross things, right? This is nothing. And I feel like, again, just because Inami is showing an interest to her wounds, you can't really make the leap of logic and say that she likes wounds and likes inflicting hurt and pain on other people, right? So, I don't know. I don't particularly... I didn't think that this episode was set up particularly well, both in the dumbness of the criminals and as well as in the deductive reasoning from Hondomachi. But, I mean, I guess it's kind of nitpick. Can I say it's nitpicking? I mean, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy this series for what it is. It's just that for this episode in particular, I feel like the setup is kind of weak. Both the setup and the solving of it was kind of weak. Now, with that being said, there is one thing that I feel is a big hint within this series. Hondomachi mentioned at the very end as well, saying how she realized that even though we recall her talking with her boss in the car, right, saying even though it's switching around the impulses, the unconscious thoughts, if you sit down and really think through it, you'll know that what you're doing is illogical and you wouldn't be driven purely by this impulse, right? And of course she was given an explanation and whatnot, but in the end it seems that she's trying to say her point is right. The impulse were reversed or switched, and their basic logical reasoning, or their ego and probably not super ego, their ego, if you will, was not tampered with. Only their id, right? So what this basically means is, it also confirms that Kazuta does not actually love Inami, right? Because this is an easy sort of transferring logic. If wanting to kill Hondomachi meant that Kazuta decided to show love to her, right, because it switched, then if he were to love Inami, then he would have killed her, right? I know they sort of skirt around the situation that's saying they're killing for her, but I feel like that's kind of not really how this works, right? If you want to kill Hondomachi and that means that you want to express love, then what would say that the love has to be directed to her? It's a one-to-one relationship, right? The object is still the same. So if wanting to kill means making love or showing love or affection, then showing love or affection would mean killing that person, right? So if Kazuta actually loved Inami, she would be dead. So there you go. I think that is maybe the biggest takeaway and conclusion from this episode that we can have. The rest, well, let's just see in the next episode if they actually prove me wrong and address some of my problems and issues that I had with this episode. So there we go. That was my review of episode 5 of Idinvaded. I will see you guys next time, hopefully in the current episode, and then on time as the episodes drop. Bye-bye.